Hey, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition of the DFF Run. Oh, yeah. So I stumbled upon this on the Deep Fat Fried subreddit, which I know you guys both love so much.
I mean, this is surely going to be the penultimate episode.
Yes.
Of Deep Fat Fried.
Well, don't jinx that, because that apparently that means second to last.
What?
I've noticed the boys repeatedly use the word penultimate as augmented ultimate, when in fact it means second to last, one step below ultimate. It's not an augmentative. It's not an augmentative. Is that right? Are you right in this thing saying we are wrong? Maybe you are. I don't know. Maybe that's proper usage. It's not an augmentative. That means super mega ultimate. Paul is the most common offender. I don't mean to be a prick or anything, guys. Or an actually guy. That's what I can't read. Just putting it out there. Peace.
All right. Cool.
So, Paul, quit using penultimate wrong. You piece of
I'm going to
shit.
keep using it exactly because he said he's not trying to be a prick and he's just putting it out there. So he's not telling me what to do.
And then this fucking cocksucker is like, TJ's been doing this for years. I'm like, motherfucker, I cannot even remember a single time when I've used the word penultimate. Okay? So that's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
This guy just says whole cloth. This guy said cheddar cheese. Does one of us say cheddar? What? All right, so here's another one they're correcting us on. Factoid. They seem to think it means fact when it actually means the exact opposite. Some modern definitions include the fact definition, but that's just as fucking retarded as literally also meaning figuratively. It's just added to appease the stupids. So I say down here popular usage dictates meaning because it does. But, like, not only that, like, some of the definitions that I looked at of the word factoid when I was looking this up, the first definition was like a fact of little importance or like a trifling fact.
Right.
But I guess the original meaning of factoid was something that is not a fact but has been repeated so much that it gets taken for granted as a fact.
I mean, fuck that. That ain't what it means anymore.
Yeah, that's not how anyone fucking uses it. So fuck you, Canadian Führer. Popular usage dictates meaning. Factoid is a small and trifling fact. That's where we're at. Your old definition is literally dead and beaten by a fucking horse. All right.
I don't care if the definition is right or wrong. If I said something wrong, I don't really care. I mean, it's like it was said extemporaneously in the moment. If it's wrong, then it's wrong.
You just misused the word extemporaneously, Scotty, because what that actually means is when you're juggling 15 cats, and you're not juggling 15 cats right now. So, I
mean, I just don't care what a bunch of losers on the internet think. I don't care what they say. It's like
don't call our fans losers.
They are.
Here's another
I'm a loser too.
I'm a loser, baby. So why don't
I had a fucking goddamn thing every time I got in the car. The song "Loser" by Three Doors Down would play continuously. I clearly am a fucking loser. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's true.
I said the word wrong. If I got the word wrong, oh well, I got it wrong. You're right. I'm wrong.
You're taking it real personal, Scotty. You triggered, Scotty. You triggered.
This just makes me want to use more words incorrectly.
So the other one they don't like is insipid. They said that they use it as a general word for stupid, but it actually refers to something that is bland and uninteresting. So look, I that's
usually what I mean when I say insipid.
Right. Me too. I use insipid. I mean, like, it's so most things that I find stupid, I also find unstimulating, uninteresting, bland, dull.
Right.
So I kind of use it as an augmenter of stupid, but whatever. So anyway, fuck you guys and your fucking language policing bullshit. You motherfuckers need to get a life, all right? You're a loser.
A better way to
You're a loser.
Would be for us to not mention it and then just do the next episode and misuse insipid and penultimate like at least 15 times a piece.
It is the penultimate Movie. Oh, dude, we do this fucking movie episode. That's all we need to fucking say.
Yeah.
Penultimate. It's the penultimate John Carpenter film. It's the penultimate Wes Craven film. It's the penultimate.
Here's a little factoid. This insipid movie is the penultimate bad movie.
All right. So we're not here today to argue language usage with these dumbasses. We're here today to answer a fucking question. To suss out. Be sure to make a thread about how I'm using sus wrong, by the way. Thanks, guys. Suss out which of these two directors, Wes Craven, John Carpenter, who's fucking better? Who's the true master of horror? A lot of fucking parallels between their lives and their styles and stuff.
Cool.
So I think that this is going to be a really interesting one. A lot of times when we do these, we pit two like lame pieces of shit against each other. This time we're actually pitting two fucking really fucking cool, influential fucking voices against each other. And I don't think when I've put these together in the past, it's been like, oh fuck. Well, I can kind of get a sense of like where everything is going to go. This time I was like, wow, every single one of these is going to be pretty hard. So cool. The categories, life and personality, filmography, originality, scare factor, crowning achievement, low point, and approach to filmmaking. And we're going to look at all 7 of those factors. At the end of that, we should have a decisive victor on our hands. I didn't know it when I put this episode together, but apparently this is kind of a raging debate within horror communities.
Nerds.
Yeah. I mean, which I am. So
right.
I'm more than down to weigh in on this fucking debate. So the system we're going to use is after each category, each of us will get a vote as to who is the winner of the category. And we've done it before, but just to explain to the audience, there's 3 of us, so the votes could be unanimous or they could be split. But ultimately, whoever has the most votes wins the category, and whoever wins the most categories wins the whole fucking shebang.
All right. Well, you didn't think about if someone votes for winner. You didn't think about that.
Oh, yeah. What if they vote for winner? Oh, wow. Yeah, good point.
Got you sleeping there, TJ.
Oh, damn. You really
I
threw a monkey wrench in the works.
For you, though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, because I know Wes Craven wrote a lot of stuff, too. Are we going to count movies he wrote but not necessarily directed, or are we going to count only films he directed?
We're looking at the movies these guys directed.
Okay, fair enough.
Clarify that. They were both writers. I think Wes Craven wrote a few movies that he did not direct. I don't think John Carpenter wrote any movies that he didn't direct. Although they both wrote some movies, but we're going to look at the ones that they directed. We're going to focus on that. Okay. So,
I mean, what if we're incapable of deciding which is the penultimate director, TJ?
Well, then I would say you're insipid at that point.
Well, whatever. I've got a factoid for you, TJ. You're a moron.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm not the penultimate moron like you.
Oh, damn.
Dissed. Okay. So let's go ahead and proceed with our first guy, Mr. Wes Craven here. So this is the life and personality section. Let's learn a little bit about the life and personality of Mr. Wes Craven. Do you guys know much about this guy's life?
No, I don't know much about either of these dudes' lives. I know about their movies.
Okay.
I know a lot more about John Carpenter's life than I do about Wes Craven. His life, I know he's dead. That's about it.
I will tell you that Wes Craven is a dude that doesn't look like his name.
Yeah, that's true. Because even his name itself kind of sounds spooky, right?
Yeah,
like it almost sounds like it could be the name of a fucking slasher, Yeah. But you see here, he's got a very like gentle, sort of relaxed demeanor. But we'll get into his personality towards the end of this. So I have a few little basic facts here. Born 1939, Cleveland, Ohio. Parents were Carolyn and Paul Eugene Craven. Education level, he had an undergraduate in English and psychology from Wheaton College, and a master in philosophy and writing from Johns Hopkins University. Prior to working as a film director, he worked as an English professor. He also worked as a pornographer for a time.
Oh.
And was probably involved in some capacity, though it's very unclear, in the film Deep Throat, which is one of the most famous pornographic features of all time.
I see.
So here's something you might find a little bit mind-blowing about Wes Craven. He was raised in a Baptist household where he was not allowed to even watch movies. And he saw very few movies in his life before actually deciding to become a director. When his family was only allowed to watch Disney movies, and only very occasionally, because it was like literally in the household it was like movies are of the devil.
Right.
So basically, when he took on the directing reins for his first big feature, Last House on the Left, he said of that, I didn't even know what a horror film was. I just kind of made it up as I went along.
Well, that's pretty crazy, because that movie was like an insanely hyped horror movie.
Yes, and it really it was hugely influential as well. But we'll discuss that in a later section. So, number 2, Craven turned down the director's chair for Scream multiple times, claiming that he did not want to do horror films anymore. He felt that the genre was rife with misogyny, Craven himself being like a super staunch feminist at that point. The studio really wanted him to do the film and kept trying to convince him. The Weinsteins both came to him, Bob and Harvey. You know,
who? I'm not aware of who those people are anymore.
Well, yeah, we erased them from history, but for the purposes of this, we have to bring them back for a second. So the Weinstein brothers tried to talk him into it. They didn't get anywhere with him. They sent Drew Barrymore to try to convince him. She couldn't convince him. But ultimately, he was convinced, not by anyone who was actually trying to convince him, but by a random 12-year-old forgotten to history. So he was Craven. Here's Craven recounting the story. A little kid of around 12 came up to me and said, "You should do a real goddamn movie again because the movies you've been doing have been getting softer and softer." And that's all the kid had to say. That stuck with him. That stuck in his craw, and he thought to himself, "Look, you've been fighting for this your whole career, but the movies you've made that have been really important have crossed the boundaries of decency and are scary because they are ruthless. So I called up Bob Weinstein and said, if that job's still open, I'll take it."
Damn. I wish we could find who that kid was.
I know, right?
Who's ballsy enough to walk up to Wes Craven in public and chastise him?
Yeah, some little dumbass kid is like, "Man, your movies suck now," and he's like, "Fuck you, bitch! I'm gonna go direct Scream."
That's awesome. That makes total sense. All these big important people. Look, Wes, you got to do the movie. You got to do the movie. Look, this movie's gonna be a big. Yeah, that's great. Some fucking little punk ass fucking kid walks up. "Hey, you Wes Craven?" "Yes, I am." "You fucking suck, and your fucking movie suck too." Give me Harvey Weinstein on the phone now.
There's actually a couple of details that Wes left out of this story.
Oh, yeah?
He was walking around a little town in California called Madera.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Oh, yeah. Sure.
and the little boy that changed his direction and reinvigorated him as a director was none other than yours truly.
Wow.
Little PJ Parkey.
I don't know if the timeline exactly matches up since you were quite a little bit older in the mid 90s when Scream was made, but sure.
Pish posh, TJ. You said it was a 12-year-old, right?
Yeah.
This actually happened in 92, and Wes started work on Scream at that point.
Yeah, no. It
just didn't come out until 95.
Sure. So, number 3. Little factoid. You got a factoid coming in, everybody.
Factoid really is the penultimate word.
It is. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Some people might find it insipid, which means stupid, by the way. But
right. I'm not one of those people.
All right. So number 3. While it's all a little mysterious, Craven has said on camera that he made a pretty lucrative career directing many hardcore X-rated films under a string of pseudonyms. So there's even speculation he was involved in the most famous adult film of all time, arguably, Deep Throat. So Yeah, I looked into this dude's personality. As far as I could tell, it's kind of maybe a little tainted by the fact that he was dead. Because, a lot of times when people die...
Yeah, they want to rosy up their...
Right, rosy him up a little bit. But as far as I could tell, the people described him as dignified, soft-spoken, thoughtful, kind, quick to smile, relaxed, approachable, intelligent, the speaking mannerisms of a college professor, which, of course, he was for a long time before he became a filmmaker. Well,
so
not
basically
a
real fucking asshole.
Yeah, total prick. Unlikable douche. No, so I have a little clip here so you can kind of see him in action and kind of get a feel for his personality yourself. This is him being interviewed about Scream in 1997. And he's going to kind of recount his childhood upbringing here a little bit.
That gets your attention, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. Let me talk a little bit about you, and we'll come back to this film. I said a little bit in the introduction about your parents thought films were the work of the devil.
Yeah.
So, and you never saw movies
wasn't
until
quite
you were
presented in quite that
okay.
cartoon level.
I don't want to make them sound cartoonish, like, but the notion was you didn't see any movies,
right.
And the notion was until high school, right? Or when was it? Did you first?
Actually, senior in college.
Senior in college. You saw your first film.
First non-Disney film. Disney films were considered
exempt.
Okay.
They were okay.
They were exempt, but a commercial film about a serious subject. Yes. Yeah. First time in college, and it was a.
So, why did he wait until the end of college to watch an actual movie if he was going to?
Well, apparently the college also was quite Christian and restrictive. He'll get into it in a second.
Okay.
Religiously, I can't say the word. So I would have been expelled if they had caught me going to that theater. I hitchhiked to another town and saw To Kill a Mockingbird, and that was my first film.
What a great film to see! It's your first one.
It was wonderful. And it really put the lie to the whole notion that films were inherently evil. I mean, at that moment, I realized this cannot be, because it was such a great film. It's like, how can you say this is bad? Or could harm you?
So, so a strict, not only a strict Christian upbringing, but also going to a strict enough Christian college to the point where if they discovered that he had gone to see this film, To Kill a Mockingbird, he'd have been expelled from fucking college.
A scandalous film, no doubt.
Right.
So yeah, it did take him. I mean, like, he was obviously under the boot heel of Christian dogmatism for quite some time.
I mean, yeah, that book, because that book is about like teaching evolution in schools and shit, isn't it?
What? To Kill a Mockingbird?
Well, yeah, because doesn't it end up tackling like?
No, that was more like a racial thing, right?
Well, no, I remember that, but wasn't that part of it though?
I don't know. I don't remember that, but it could be.
Also, in the course of teaching evolution, they also teach the kids in the classroom a satanic ceremony and ritual.
Oh, got it.
To prove evolution, because one of the kids goes, "But the Bible says," and they go, "Fuck the Bible." Now
Listen, if you want proof, just draw a pentagram on the ground in blood. Light the red candles.
So
slit the throat of a chicken.
It's time to move on to John Carpenter.
He looks like an asshole.
So born 1948 in Carthage, New York. His parents were Milton Jean and Howard Ralph Carpenter. So his mom's name was Milton or Howard. I don't know. It sounds like two male names.
Which?
Education level, he attended the Western Kentucky University. He transferred to the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts, but dropped out to make his first movie. I looked into his previous jobs. I was not able to discover any of them. I assume he probably did some odd jobs, maybe working in, the food service industry or customer service or, some stuff like that. But I wasn't able to find any actual evidence of him working any job before becoming a filmmaker. So interesting facts. John Carpenter is a notorious chain smoker, even smoking during interviews. Like, if you go watch him in interviews, I saw him do like a 44-minute or so interview with Robert Rodriguez, which I'm going to show a clip of in a little bit here. He probably goes through like 5 cigarettes in that interview.
Cool.
So another fact, or factoid, I should say. John Carpenter hasn't directed a film in a decade, but he has put out 2 albums that met with critical acclaim and some fanfare. He has also done some live performances of his music. He was also the composer for the latest Halloween film and its upcoming sequel, Halloween Kills. By the way, I've been listening to a lot of his music lately, and I really dig it. He's composed the music for all of his movies pretty much since the beginning of his directing career. So here's some of the movies that he's turned down, because he's been offered directing a lot of director spots that, I think a lot of people in his position would have been like, oh fuck yeah, just like drooling over these fucking prospects, but not him. Top Gun he turned down because he thought it was fucking stupid. He's just like, it's garbage. I don't want to direct that piece of shit.
I mean, I got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Top Gun is pretty stupid.
Right.
I mean, it's not the smartest movie. It's not the most intellectual movie.
Right.
It's definitely just a big, dumb jet movie.
I mean, but it's guaranteed. I mean, that's pretty much guaranteed hit. And there's a shot, Fatal Attraction he turned down. He said it was unoriginal garbage. He turned down Zombieland because they wouldn't give enough creative control. He turned down The Golden Child in favor of doing Big Trouble in Little China, even though The Golden Child was pretty much a guaranteed hit because Eddie Murphy was so ultra hot at the time. So basically they're like, hey, you can direct this movie with the fucking hottest actor in the world right now, or you could do this risky gamble of like maybe Big Trouble in Little China will be something, which it flopped, by the way.
Which is sad because
it's awesome. Yeah, it's
also a better movie.
It's actually
than
way
Golden
better.
Child.
It is way better than The Golden Child. I will give it that. He didn't really give a shit. Having a big hit movie was not his top priority. His top priority was, I want to make the best fucking movie I possibly can. So, super uncompromising. Carpenter became a director because he wanted to make Westerns. That was the genre that he was in love with. He loved Westerns. He loves them to this day. His whole purpose of becoming a Hollywood director was he wanted to make Westerns. But by the time that he made it in Hollywood, the Western was dead.
Yeah, Westerns were totally dead. I mean, if you look at a graph of them, Westerns were the majority of movies up until the 60s and 70s.
Right. And that's what he wanted to do. But by the time he got to Hollywood, no one was making Westerns anymore. Now, he did get a chance to work on a Western. He actually wrote a screenplay for John Wayne in the late 70s. And he worked closely with John Wayne and his family on a script called Blood River. And it was about an aging gunslinger mentoring a young apprentice. In Carpenter's mind, he wanted Elvis for the other role. John Wayne, I guess, wanted Ron Howard to do the part.
What?
Yeah, really weird. Unfortunately, John Wayne's health declined too much to possibly do the movie. And, this project was kind of shelved. It later got made into a TV movie that pretty much no one has ever seen. Back in 1991. So looking into the personality of John Carpenter, here's the kind of adjectives that I arrived at. Opinionated, strongly opinionated, self-deprecating in his sense of humor, but also in a way where you kind of feel a raging ego behind the self-deprecation, what I mean?
Right.
But genuinely insecure. Very much driven by instinct and what he thinks is right. He's not necessarily a guy who's trying to figure out how everything, fits together. He's more about trusting his gut and just going with stuff. Very idea driven. If a script doesn't have an adequate amount of ideas in it or something, he's not interested in it. He wants the things that he makes to be something that's going to have, some sort of deeper resonance or meaning. And just everything about the guy, thoroughly uncompromising. He's not willing to play the game. He's not willing to kiss the prerequisite amount of ass. He's not willing to be, the team player. He's just all about I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
So I was right in my assessment of him as kind of an asshole.
He's kind of more of an asshole.
He's definitely an asshole. If you're working with this guy.
Now
He's not.
as far.
I mean, he might not be a constant raging 24/7 asshole.
Look, when I looked at his approach to like how he treated his actors and stuff, like when he talks about like. I'm not going to play this clip, but I saw an interview where he was asked like, "What's your favorite part of movies?" And he's just like, "Working with the cast, working with the crew." It seems like he had a tremendous amount of patience. Like he would talk about like if someone didn't understand like how, like even the basic stuff of filmmaking, like how to hit their marks and stuff, he would personally go and like coach them and this stuff. So I think that when it came to dealing with his actors and stuff, he was a very patient guy. But it was always towards the interest of serving the specific vision that he had for how things should go.
Right.
But
he was like a Hitchcock who famously compared actors to livestock.
No, I think that he had a much more gentle approach with his actors. He tried to keep them happy, stuff like that. And I mean, like, as far as I could tell in his interpersonal relationships with people one-on-one, I don't think that he's necessarily a confrontational asshole, but if he wants to do something, he's not going to be flexible and let you do your thing. You're going to do his thing.
Right.
So yeah, I guess you can kind of view that sort of uncompromising attitude as being like an asshole attribute. Let's kind of see this guy in action. This is him in an interview with Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, my father had
you can see that cigarette.
So 8mm is where I started. Then I graduated to a little bit better one. I had a Uming, a German camera, which had a stop motion. It had a single frame on it, so I could animate. Then I went to USC, graduated 16mm, and then finally 35 later.
What was your experience like in USC? I had read somewhere that your lecturers were guys like John Ford and Howard Hawks and Hitchcock and Orson Welles. I mean, that must have been mind-blowing.
The room was packed for Orson Welles. He just wanted to sit and tell stories. And he was amazing. Amazing to see him live and in person.
How positive were they? Were they realistic and said, none of you will probably ever be directors? Or were they pie in the sky and said, you can all realistically get a good job here?
First day of the first class, the instructor stood up and said, 99% of you won't go anywhere. It's the first thing you hear. And it's like, hey. But it wasn't talking about me.
Okay. So that's kind of like gives you, I think, a little insight into the mentality there.
Like, fuck you, ain't gonna tell me I'm not gonna be like yeah, 99% of these other people, they're gonna fucking fail, of course. Not me.
I'm not the 99, I'm the one, basically.
Hey, he was for sure.
And he was right. He was.
He ended up being right, but I can guarantee you, every other fucking kid in that class thought they were this. They felt the same way,
right? But
they were like, yeah, the rest of these fucking people are gonna.
But
fail.
They weren't right. Maybe they weren't right, but he was right.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if it was luck on his part. I think that in his case, like one thing about fucking John Carpenter is that, he never let a lack of money or anything stand in his way of being a filmmaker. Like it doesn't, if he's got a camera, he's going to make a fucking movie. Yeah. Cause he was just, I don't know. I think he was always going to make it. I don't know. I don't think there's anything that could have stopped him, because it doesn't matter what sort of resources you deprive him of. He's never going to be the guy that's like, well, I don't have what I need to do it, so I guess I'll just fucking throw in the towel or whatever. He's just the guy, like, if all he had is just like a camcorder, he's going to fucking make shitty low-budget home movies or something. Anyway, so now it's time to decide who gets the fucking golden prize. So,
Wes Craven is kind of like Mr. Rogers, like.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
He seems like really just like a super nice dude. And John Carpenter, he doesn't seem like a total irredeemable asshole, but he just seems like more of a force of personality.
Right. But I wonder if that serves you better in the capacity as a director and artist to have that more uncompromising sort of streak.
Well, clearly you're looking at two wildly successful directors here.
Right. So both approaches work.
Right. Both approaches work, clearly.
Right.
On some level.
So it's just kind of, I don't know how you judge it. Like Wes Craven is definitely nicer. If it's about like who's nicer, you got to give it to Craven.
And he's definitely got the more interesting like story. Like he's just like he's not one of these people that like grew up as a kid watching movies and pursued it as an adult. He like, you know what I mean? He wasn't even allowed to watch movies until he was almost out of college. Somehow.
Yeah, I do. You know, it is kind of interesting. And there's such a I think, you know, what's really kind of interesting about Wes Craven on that level is there's like this real juxtaposition of like the sort of like balls to the wall crazy stuff that he's done as a director, especially in his very early films, versus this like very, you know, soft-spoken, gentle, affable kind of guy that, you know, he actually is. And you know, so that's kind of an interesting dichotomy. You know, whereas John Carpenter is a little bit more like, what I think you would typically expect from a director of the caliber that we're kind of discussing here today.
Just a real assertive.
Yeah, like a kind of more of a force of nature. So I guess I would agree with you that Wes Craven probably has the more interesting story. And, you know, so I guess that, you know, thinking about it in those terms, I guess I'd give the edge to Craven.
I mean, I don't know. There's just they're two very interesting, very different, you know, lives and well, approaches.
You know, one of the things that maybe kind of pushes me more towards Carpenter though is just like the sheer amount of stuff that he does. Like he's a director, but he also is a composer and a really fucking honestly brilliant one.
He's a writer.
Yeah, I mean he's right. Plus he fucking, one of the things that he's always, you know, he's fucking super particular about the editing of his movies. Like he's a director. He is a filmmaker, is pretty much involved in every aspect of his fucking movies. He doesn't fucking cede anything to anyone else. So he's like a total control freak in that regard. But he's a control freak that he has to have a level of competence in so many different areas of filmmaking. From like, he controls what the font is in the title screen. He controls, you know, what music is going to play where, and he composed the music himself. And, you know, just like, you know, there's so many more dimensions to his artistry than to Wes Craven's, because Wes Craven is more of a straight up and down kind of director.
I appreciate Wes Craven, and I appreciate John Carpenter. But I mean, ultimately, as this is a subjective list, who appeals more to me is definitely John Carpenter. I think that Wes Craven has a more unique life story. He came from a different background where, you know, this film thing just wasn't in his blood. He didn't catch it from a young age where it's like, you know, he doesn't have the story. I'm 6 years old and I see this for my first film. And it's like, you know, he comes from a totally different sort of background. That's interesting. And I think it definitely affected his filmmaking and his personality and the way he conducted himself. But John Carpenter, that's what appeals to me. I think when most people think about being a film director, it's like they want to be a John Carpenter. And I think very few people can live up to that. And Wes Craven, while I think that, you know, he's really great, but we're just taking it as a personality and what appeals more to me. It's definitely a John Carpenter style of directing and personality.
Right,
and the way they convey it.
I think John Carpenter is probably a little more closer to who you are too.
Yeah,
so you can probably see,
if I'm gonna vote,
you can see more of yourself in a John Carpenter.
Deep bad pride. Deep bad pride.